Tonight on Gloomstation, I'm going to tell you about the voice in the woods. 34% of America is covered by forests and woods. Now that's a vast amount of land where anything could be hiding away from the prying eyes of humans. This story is about just one experience of hearing voices among the trees. So dim the lights, find somewhere safe, and listen. It was almost hunting season, so I went with my dad to scout the land he had leased. We'd been working it for months, clearing sightlines, making feed plots, and setting up cameras on different trees. We both came to know the property really well. We had maps and aerial photos that we used to draw zones so we could discuss the areas better. All this to say, we felt extremely confident and safe walking around the woods. Foolishly, we thought it was our woods. So this particular day, we drive up to the usual parking spot and walk to our first shooting house. The supplies were all good, so we started wandering around, checking the cameras, more or less just hanging out in anticipation of the season. My dad planned a solo hunt on Zone A, which was nearest to the parking area since he had recently hurt his knee and walked with a limp. My spot was Zone B. That way I'd be close enough to help him if anything came up, but far enough apart that we wouldn't be aiming at each other. I didn't want him pushing his knee, so once we got to his spot, I went to B without him. This was something I'd done plenty of times before. I got to my ladder stand without any issue. I climbed up and used my binoculars to look around. It really was beautiful out there. The trees were every color of fall, and the air was right between warm and cool. It was quiet and peaceful, until it wasn't. I came down from the ladder stand and turned back towards Zone A where my dad was. I took 2 steps, then I heard him call out to me from the other direction. "Hey, Joseph!" I spun around. His voice was distant. Now he must have went wide around me and kept going to check the shooting house at Zone C. So I called out one time. "Hey, yo, Dad, where you at?" Then I began walking toward where he had called out to me. I followed the path we made that connected all of the zones. When I was halfway to him, he called out again, but not from Zone C. This time he was off the trail, much deeper into the woods. "Joseph, I'm over here." I put my hands to my mouth and shouted, "Hey, where are you?" After just a few seconds, he called back, "I'm over here." Now, put yourself in my shoes out there. We had done this enough times that being separated among the trees was nothing new. Shouting to find each other was common. I had no reason to be suspicious, so I went to his voice. The woods were quiet except for me pushing through brush and overgrowth. All I could hear was the sound of leaves and twigs breaking underneath my feet. After walking for what felt like too long, I stopped and shouted to him again. I waited and listened. But now it was quiet. Entirely quiet. As in void of sound. No longer did I hear the wind in the trees. No birds, no squirrels. Nothing. It was completely still. Then I heard him off to my right on the other side of a short hill. He called out and said my name. "Joseph!" So I laughed at my moment of nervousness and headed to the hill, while calling out to him that we must have missed each other. He didn't respond. I reached the top of the hill and looked around, but it was just trees. Now I was confused and getting tired of walking aimlessly, so I called out loudly. And I waited for him to call out again. But instead my phone rang in my pocket, a piercing jingle that cut through the pure silence that had fallen over the woods. I fished it out and saw he was calling me, so I answered and put it to my ear. "You stop moving around? Been looking for you forever," I said, just a little frustrated at our game of cat and mouse. But what he said back caught me by surprise. "I've been at the truck waiting for you. You know I can't walk that far. And quit hollering for me to come over there." I couldn't say anything back to him. I was more than just confused. I had definitely heard him out here calling to me. He had said my name, well beyond where we had parked the truck, beyond the path, beyond where I could have heard him if he was still at the truck where he said he was. But he also said that I had been hollering for him to come to me, which I hadn't. "Wait, you're at the truck?" I finally asked, needing to hear it again if it was true. He must have heard it in my voice because the next thing he asked was, "What's wrong?" The way he said that told me everything. This wasn't some joke. He wasn't messing with me. Right there in that moment, my dad was afraid for me. Then I heard his voice again, not through the phone, but further into the woods. "Joseph, over here." Now I was frozen, caught between confusion and fear. Did you just say my name? I asked, aware that my own voice was barely more than a whimper. That's not me, my dad said back to me. But it was what I heard next, from somewhere in the woods, that chilled me to my core. Yes. I nearly dropped my phone. I ran as hard and as fast as I could, the opposite direction of the voice that had just called out to me. I ran so fast that I didn't feel the vines and brush whipping my face. I ran as if some creature in the woods was chasing me, and maybe it was. But I wasn't going to look back to check. I ran so hard that I lost track of the direction and the distance. I could barely breathe, but I brought the phone to my mouth. Dad, hit the horn, a lot, hit the horn. I immediately heard the horn blaring from close by, and I continued my mad dash out of the woods, until I broke through the brush and stepped onto the trail, where I saw him standing at the door of the truck with one hand on the wheel. He was looking the other way, towards my hunting spot at Zone B, but he must have heard me break through the tree line because he spun around. When he saw me, he started limping to me, but I kept running and pointed ahead, telling him just to get in the truck. He turned around, and finally, we were both in the cab. It took me a while to catch my breath. When I finally did, I explained what had happened to me, and he told me what happened to him. He had heard me call out his name from the opposite direction, calling out for him to come to me, come deeper into the woods. Now that was never me, and the voice I'd heard had never been him. Whatever is out there was luring me off the path and deeper into the woods. It mimicked our voices, pretended to be us. We didn't hunt that season, not the land or anywhere else. I've been terrified of the woods ever since, and my dad hasn't gone hunting again. Nobody believes us entirely. They think we just got turned around, mixed up in the woods. But that's why I'm telling you. Because you know these things happen. And you know that there's something in those woods. If you have true stories of your own that you'd like to be put in a future video, send them to my email listed below. Also, after liking and subscribing, tell me in the comments what your favorite story has been so far. Now that's it for tonight's episode. Stay safe out there.